Welcome to Beyond BIM. In today's interview, I sat down with Dr. Ivanka Iordanova, an accredited architect and professor of construction engineering department in École de Technologie Supérieure, based in Montreal, Canada. She's an experienced academic contributing to the research that relates to digital media and building performance, to BIM and know-how modeling. Her ongoing research program focuses on the construction industrialization and automation, and is largely also based on the digital transformation of the industry as a whole. And if that wasn't enough to keep her busy, she's also a member of the board of directors of CanBIM, the Canadian professional body of building information modeling. And now let's take a listen to what Ivanka has to say on the state of digital transformation in the built environment. First and foremost, Ivanka, could you just start off by giving maybe a brief introduction to yourself and tell us a little bit more about what got you to this stage in your career, and of course, tell us the journey of how you became a professor.
Thank you very much for this invitation. It's a life story actually, because I did my architectural degree in Bulgaria, where I'm originally from. I came to Canada after the big changes in Bulgaria when I lost my job there as a beginner architect. And this is actually 25 years ago. During these 25 years in Canada, I went through several stages. I can say that my initial plan was to become a professor. For that, I went first to the School of Architecture of the Université de Montreal, where I did my master's degree and afterwards my PhD. And during all this time, I was teaching to students also. What was the topic of my teaching? It was actually digital architecture, which was quite new at this moment. And I was so captivated by this research topic that I was just involved in various research projects in the studios, the digital studios I was giving to my students. So that's how my research career started. Then I went actually for a postdoc at the engineering, one of the engineering universities here in Montreal, the ETS, École de Technologie Supérieure. And here I got more in touch with the engineering part of our industry, with the construction industry as such, which led me to become innovation leader of one of the big general contractors company here in Canada. It's Pomerleau. So I set the basis of the BIM team, which afterwards became the VDC team and finally became the innovation team. So after this long parenthesis, very, very enriching with industry experience and also with research and development, parenthesis of 7 years, I finally got back to academia. And here I am now at the ETS, where I did my postdoc. And I'm professor for a year and a half here now, having new students and feeling again excited about my research, and happy to share this with you.
And what sort of research are you then currently conducting? And what sort of research questions do you have set in place for this type of research?
That's an interesting question, because many people who know me would think that I continue digging into building information modeling, because that's what I was known for from industry, so to say. Because when I was at Pomerleau, the company won several awards on national level for BIM innovation and implementation, etc., etc. But it seems that after having done it or having implemented it on many projects, now I'm more curious to see what is BIM opening the doors for. So I would say that I'm really looking into the beyond BIM because I see BIM as an enabler, digitalization of the whole construction industry, which starts with BIM. And this is really a big step in the evolution of our industry towards innovation, towards better performance and quality of the built environment. So I'm still looking at BIM, but for the whole cycle of the life cycle of the buildings. So BIM for asset management, or from the perspective of an owner, infrastructure or building owner or operator. These are some of the questions we're asking with some of my students. I'm also integrating the strategy of lean construction because BIM is a technology, it's a way of work, but it needs strategies on a more macro and organizational and project management level so that it can be applied in a efficient way. So lean construction is also a topic I'm working with some of my students. And then another topic, a bit newer for me actually, is automation, automating data collection, for example, and project progress monitoring with land rovers and automated robots, looking at health and safety applications. And all this is based or is made possible by the use of modeling and simulation and by this integration of data coming from various sources and models and even stakeholders. Another topic that is also very flourishing now, thanks to BIM, is modular and offsite construction. And some people don't see necessarily the connection between BIM and offsite, but actually the possibility to well coordinate and well simulate everything which will be happening between the stakeholders. So from the design through the manufacturing and to the installation on the building, it's a prerequisite for the success of this kind of manufacturing construction, if I may say so. Finally, the most avant-garde topic I would say that I'm developing today is bringing me in a way back to my initial research in my PhD, which was computational architecture. So this topic is digital fabrication. Having generative design for the objects design, and being able to fabricate it either by 3D printing or another procedure.
That sounds quite like an eclectic array of research, but what you said there at the start, that BIM kind of remains the foundation for a lot of these different areas that you're investigating. So if we look at where we are today with BIM implementation and, let's say, digital transformation as well, where are we based on what you've done to date with your research, and what does that look like in Canada, for example?
So I would say that with BIM, we have achieved a kind of a plateau of productivity. If we take the hype cycle of adoption of new technologies, we have been up, we have gone down, and now we're kind of climbing towards the plateau of productivity. The maturity in BIM is very unequal. It's kind of spread in Canada. It depends on the regions. It depends also on the company itself we are talking about. So, for example, if I take Pomerleau, PCL, Ellis-Don, Ledcor, the big general contractors in Canada and some others, I'm not exhaustive here, they have some exceptional achievements and developments which they will use for some of their projects. But even in these companies, BIM will not be on 100% of their projects. So there still will be some projects which will have very rudimentary use of BIM or almost none. Why? The resources, I would say that it's a quite new technology. The maturity is not there yet. There are people who are very resistant to change, like everywhere and for every innovation. And even if now there is a big lack of BIM, BIM knowledgeable people, there is a big trend towards using more and more technology, but there isn't kind of a maturity which is everywhere. But the growth is really exponential. And if 10 years ago, maybe 20 people knew what is BIM, now everybody from the construction industry knows, and probably 80% of the bigger stakeholders use it. The big problem now is to involve the owners, the asset managers, because a project starts with them, and if they don't require BIM, sometimes or if they don't provide the time and the resources at the beginning for BIM implementation for the project, sometimes it just cannot happen.
Yeah, so I think that's really interesting that we have a lot of companies, as you say, that are now also looking beyond BIM, looking at other forms of digitization of activities on site and etc. But at the same time, we still have this long tail of, let's say, SMEs or companies that have not yet even fully been able to adopt BIM for whatever reason that may be. Do you think that now, with some of the areas that you're talking about, like generative design, progress monitoring on site, do you think that that is pushing those other companies to ramp up the speed of BIM implementation because they're seeing that there's a whole host of other technologies coming their way, and if they're not up to speed with BIM, they will soon become, well, less competitive in that environment?
Absolutely. And actually, we all read the report, which was published several years ago in UK, Modernize or Die.
Yeah, that's quite famous. Yeah.
It's very relevant. I would say that there are various types of companies, if I try to group them together. One of them may be a very quick and agile type of companies, other startups, which will develop some applications that might be just artificial intelligence or data sensing applications or equipment, and they will see all of a sudden the possibility to use this kind of applications in the industry of construction. So these startups, they are very clever and they will be very beneficial for the whole industry. Another group of small and medium-sized enterprises will try to catch the train, if I can say so, of a big general contractor who is already innovating, and they will take the possibility, the occasion to learn from him and to get up to speed with innovation in the context of a bigger project together with this general contractor. When I was at Pomerleau, we were regularly doing this with our subcontractors, help them to just to know what computer to buy, what program to install, start their projects, just very basic things, but which take a lot of time, and you cannot learn them just from a course in BIM or in Revit or whatever particular course you might take. So these are some initiatives which can only help the whole industry to get to a better maturity. And once these specialized trades see what their benefits are from using modeling and simulation and coordination, etc., they never go back. And this I've seen many times. We had some incredible answers to some of our surveys because we were doing surveys with the stakeholders around the project after each project's completion. And we had an HVAC sub-trade saying that he had reduced the rework by 85%, the rework on the construction site. Mm-hmm. So how do you imagine that this guy will go back to his drawing on without coordination in 3D?
Yeah,
he's saving so much money. And we had another answer from piping guy who said that his installation time was reduced by 20 to 30%. And both of these companies, they were using BIM for the first time. So the benefits are really tangible, and these companies, when they take the occasion to learn from a more advanced one, it's only to their benefit. And of course, there will be a last part of the landscape of the construction. Those who continue not to believe and not to just to make the initial effort of seeing what it is about, and they just want to continue business as usual. So maybe they'll not be there for a very long time.
And if we take a look at some of this transformation with BIM and what you've seen so far with your surveys and your data collection, have you come across or understood what have most companies most often overlooked when they go down the route of digital strategies and BIM implementation?
Yeah, it's a very interesting question, and we can see maybe things at 2 or 3 levels. One is the personal level. Everybody who works in a company should see what is it for me, what's in it for me.
Yeah.
Then we have the organizational level. When we start introducing digitalization in only one department, it's never beneficial enough. The company should start by reviewing and revising its own organization, its own processes, and just take the occasion of the digitalization to optimize them, to rationalize them. This is very, very true for owners, for clients who have separate departments. Even if you take a municipality, they have like 5 separate departments, and the data they are looking at is the same. It's their assets, but they will have separate databases. There will be many redundancies. There will be errors between the entered data. So there is an enormous potential for rationalization. We are now working with our own university, which decided to become kind of a living lab. So we are trying to introduce BIM for the management of the assets of the university, and we are trying to help the asset managers there and the construction part also to integrate these databases. And also, I didn't mention this, but our research group, which is the GRID, is very much integrated with industry, in the sense that for almost 10 years now, we're always having research chairs with industrial partners. And at this moment, we have 10 industrial partners who represent the whole value chain of the construction industry. So starting from clients and going through designers, architects, engineers, general contractors, sub-trades, and finishing with the clients again. So it's very enriching to work with all these people and to see their various problems, but to try to propose a unified solution, or at least a unified way of data management.
That's great. And if our listeners would like to find out more about your work and your research group's work, where could they find out more?
Yeah, I don't know if we can share a web page, but it's...
Yeah, we can.
Okay, it's GRID, so it's GRIDD.
So your research group is called GRID, that's GRIDD. Yeah.
Yes, and it stands for Groupe de Recherche en Intégration et Développement Durable, which in English means Research Group in Integration and Sustainable Development. So there is no indication about innovation or BIM in the name of the group, but we exist already for 10 years, and actually the objective of the research in the group hasn't changed, because this is the ultimate objective. We are not doing technology development for technology's sake. We want to be relevant, to contribute for the quality and the performance of our built environment.
Okay, great. And finally then, Ivanka, what advice would you give to aspiring academics, especially female academics, wishing to make an impact and change in our field of engineering and construction?
I can tell them that it's a very exciting and very fast developing field today. And actually, I think that digital technology empowers women, because it doesn't need the pure force of the muscles, which we're usually said not to have enough, even if there are many strong women. Mm-hmm. But I can tell you that, for example, in the innovation team at Pomerleau, there are quite a few women, and they're contributing completely equally, if not even more than the men who are around there. So an advice to women: don't be afraid, get prepared, dare to innovate, dare to propose innovations. Our slightly different point of view is just something very enriching for the whole landscape of research and also for the whole industry. Another aspect of the research actually touches to the realization modes of the projects. And there we can see that there is a much bigger tendency now towards collaborative contracts, relational contracts. And we know that women tend more to get into collaborations than men. So this can only be helpful. Of course, I don't think I have ever been very conscious of being a woman doing research. one just has to remain professional and be well prepared. When you are well prepared for your work, you're just taken as a colleague, as a knowledgeable person who is helping with creativity and with logic, because research is also logic. Just don't be afraid and go ahead, and the future is for us too.
Thank you for tuning in to listen to BeyondBIM Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode and want to hear more from our latest episodes, then you can visit BeyondBIM, which is available on SoundCloud and iTunes and all the other major podcast providers.